The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my old Volvo working overtime to clear the windshield. I'm Finn, 43, and I work as a software engineer in Seattle. It's a good job, pays the bills, but sometimes the endless lines of code feel sterile. My wife, Giselle, is a vibrant contrast to that. She's an artist, a potter, and her studio is a riot of colors and clay. We've been married for 15 years, a solid foundation built on shared dreams and quiet evenings. Or so I thought. Lately, Giselle had been distant. The spark that usually danced in her eyes seemed dimmed, replaced by a preoccupied haze. She'd come home late from her studio, claiming extra classes or commissions. I didn't think much of it at first. Artists have odd hours, right? But then came the secretive phone calls, the hushed tones when I entered the room, the way she'd quickly minimize her laptop screen when I walked by. My gut, usually a reliable compass, started to churn with a feeling I hadn't experienced since my teenage years: suspicion. One Tuesday, Giselle told me she had a pottery convention in Portland, a 3-day affair. "It's a big deal, Finn. Networking, workshops, I really need to go," she'd said, her eyes avoiding mine. I kissed her goodbye, a lingering doubt clinging to my lips like a bad taste. That night I couldn't sleep. The silence of the house felt oppressive, amplifying the nagging feeling in my stomach. I got up, wandered into her studio, hoping to find some solace amongst the familiar scent of clay and paint. Nothing seemed amiss until I noticed her laptop sitting on the workbench, still powered on. I hesitated. I knew snooping was wrong, a violation of trust, but the feeling that something was terribly wrong overwhelmed my better judgment. I sat down and cautiously opened the browser. The history was cleared, of course. But then I remembered Giselle wasn't the most tech-savvy person. I clicked on the Downloads folder, and there it was, a file named Hotel Confirmation PDF. My heart hammered against my ribs as I opened it. The confirmation was for a room at the Grandview Hotel in Portland, booked under Giselle's name. But the dates, they coincided with the convention, yes, but the reservation was for 2 people, 2 adults. My blood ran cold. I scrolled further down, my eyes scanning the details. There it was, the second name, Laurent Dubois, a name I didn't recognize. A wave of nausea washed over me, the room spinning around me. Who was Laurent Dubois? The next morning, I called the Grandview Hotel, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm calling to confirm a reservation under the name of Giselle Dubois," I said, trying to sound casual. The receptionist confirmed the reservation, adding, "Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Dubois are scheduled to check out tomorrow." Mr. and Mrs. Dubois. The words echoed in my head, each syllable a hammer blow to my heart. I hung up, my hands shaking. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the solid ground beneath my feet dissolving into quicksand. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, going through the motions at work, my mind a swirling vortex of betrayal and disbelief. That evening I decided I needed to know the truth. I did a quick search for Laurent Dubois online. The first result was a LinkedIn profile. Laurent Dubois, a handsome, silver-haired man described as a renowned ceramic artist based in Montreal. My stomach clenched. It all made sense now. The convention, the secret phone calls, the newfound inspiration in her work. It was all a lie, a carefully constructed facade to mask her infidelity. I felt a burning rage rising within me, a primal scream trapped in my throat. I wanted to confront her, to scream, to demand answers. But I knew that wouldn't accomplish anything. I needed a plan, a way to expose her betrayal and reclaim my dignity. The next day, I booked a flight to Portland. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I arrived at the Grandview Hotel early in the afternoon. I checked in, requesting a room as close to Giselle's as possible. The receptionist, oblivious to the drama unfolding, smiled and handed me my key. I took the elevator to the 5th floor, my heart pounding with each ascending foot. I found Giselle's room 508 and my room 510 was conveniently located just across the hall. I waited. Hours crawled by, each minute an eternity. Finally, around 6 p.m., I heard voices coming from Giselle's room. A man's voice. Laurent's voice. I pressed my ear against the door, my hand trembling as I reached for my phone. I needed proof. I needed to document this betrayal. I carefully opened my door just a crack enough to see into Giselle's room. The door was slightly ajar, and there they were, Giselle and Laurent locked in a passionate embrace. I felt a wave of nausea and rage wash over me, so intense it almost knocked me off my feet. I raised my phone, my hand shaking, and snapped a few quick photos. Flash momentarily startled them, their heads snapping in my direction. Giselle's face registered shock, then horror. Laurent looked confused, then angry. I didn't wait for their reaction. I slammed my door shut and retreated into my room, my heart pounding like a drum. I spent the next few hours pacing the room, replaying the scene in my head, each image a fresh wound. I couldn't believe it. Giselle, the woman I loved, the woman I had shared my life with, had betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. The anger began to subside, replaced by a deep, gnawing sadness. I felt like I had lost a part of myself, a piece of my soul ripped away. Around 10 p.m., I heard a knock on my door. I knew it was Giselle. I took a deep breath and opened the door. She stood there, her face pale, her eyes red and swollen. "Finn, please, let me explain," she said, her voice trembling. "Explain what, Giselle? Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to my face. Explain how you could bring another man into our marriage bed," I said, my voice cold and hard. "It's not what you think," she stammered, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, really? Because it looked pretty clear to me. I have pictures, Giselle. I saw you. I heard you." I held up my phone, displaying the incriminating photos. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Finn, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry." "Sorry? Is that all you have to say? Sorry? You've shattered our marriage, Giselle. You've destroyed everything we've built together, and all you can say is sorry." I turned away, unable to look at her any longer. "Just go, Giselle. Go back to your lover. I don't want to see you again." She stood there for a moment, her face a mask of despair. Then she turned and walked away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I closed the door and leaned against it, the tears finally flowing freely down my face. I had lost her. I had lost everything. The next morning, I checked out of the hotel and flew back to Seattle. I didn't call Giselle. I didn't answer her calls. I needed time to process everything, to grieve the loss of my marriage. When I got back to our house, I found it empty. Giselle had packed her things and left. A note lay on the kitchen counter. "Finn, I'm so sorry. I know I've hurt you deeply. I don't expect you to forgive me. I've gone back to Montreal with Laurent. I need to figure things out. I'll contact you about the divorce." I crumpled the note in my hand, my heart aching with a pain I had never known before. She had left me for another man just like that, after 15 years. I spent the next few weeks in a fog, barely eating, barely sleeping. I went to work, but I was just going through the motions, my mind preoccupied with Giselle and her betrayal. My friends tried to comfort me, but their words felt hollow and meaningless. I felt utterly alone, adrift in a sea of despair. Then one day something shifted. A spark of anger ignited within me, a refusal to be a victim any longer. I realized that I couldn't let Giselle's betrayal define me. I had to move on. I had to rebuild my life. I started by focusing on myself. I joined a gym, started eating healthy, and began spending more time with my friends. I took up hiking, exploring the beautiful trails around Seattle, finding solace in nature. I even started taking pottery classes, ironically, determined to explore the art form that had played a role in my betrayal. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain didn't disappear completely, but it became more manageable, a dull ache rather than a sharp, stabbing wound. I started to see the world in a new light, to appreciate the simple things in life, the beauty of a sunset, the warmth of a friend's embrace. The divorce was finalized a few months later. Giselle didn't contest it. She seemed remorseful, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. The trust was broken, irrevocably shattered. We divided our assets, sold the house, and went our separate ways. I bought a small condo downtown, a fresh start in a new location. I started dating again, cautiously, tentatively. I met some wonderful women, but I wasn't ready for a serious relationship. The scars of Giselle's betrayal were still too fresh. Then one day I received an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "Laurent Dubois." My heart skipped a beat. I opened the email, my hands trembling. The email was from Laurent's wife, Chantal. She explained that she had discovered Laurent's affair with Giselle and was devastated. She had found my name and email address on Laurent's computer and decided to reach out. She wrote, I know this must be difficult for you, Finn. I am so sorry for what happened. Laurent is a serial cheater. He has done this before. He always seeks new inspiration and throws away his old relationships. Giselle is just another victim of his deceit. I am divorcing him and taking everything he has. She attached some evidence and asked me to testify in court to show what kind of person Laurent is. She also mentioned that Giselle had left Laurent after a few months, realizing that he was not the man she thought he was. He was controlling and abusive, and she had returned to Montreal alone and heartbroken. I was stunned. Giselle had been betrayed too, by Laurent. The irony was almost unbearable. I felt a strange mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a flicker of pity. I responded to Chantal's email, offering my support and agreeing to testify in court. I also asked about Giselle. Chantal told me that Giselle was struggling, trying to rebuild her life after the disastrous affair. She was working at a small pottery studio, teaching classes, and trying to make amends for her mistakes. A few weeks later, I found myself in a Montreal courtroom, testifying against Laurent Dubois. I recounted my story, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the devastation. Chantal testified as well, presenting evidence of Laurent's infidelity and abuse. The judge ruled in Chantal's favor, granting her a generous settlement and ordering Laurent to pay alimony and child support. After the trial, Chantal approached me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Finn," she said. "You helped me more than you know." "I don't know what I would have done without you," I smiled. "You're welcome, Chantal. I'm glad I could help." Then she said something that took me by surprise. "Giselle wants to talk to you. She knows that what she did was wrong and she wants to apologize in person. Would you be willing to meet with her?" I hesitated. The thought of seeing Giselle again filled me with a mix of anxiety and apprehension, but I knew that I couldn't move on completely until I had closure. "Yes," I said. "I'll meet with her." We met at a small cafe in Montreal, a neutral territory. Giselle looked different, older, more worn, but also more genuine. She apologized profusely, her voice trembling with emotion. "Finn, I am so sorry for what I did. I know I hurt you deeply. I was foolish, selfish, and blind. I thought I was in love with Laurent, but I was wrong. He was a user, a manipulator. I regret everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope that one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me." I listened to her, my heart softening slightly. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, the genuine remorse. I knew that she had suffered too, that she had paid a price for her betrayal. "I don't know if I can ever completely forgive you, Giselle," I said, "but I can accept your apology. I can accept that you made a mistake, and I can move on." We talked for a long time, sharing our stories, our regrets, our hopes for the future. It wasn't a reconciliation, but it was a step towards closure. As I left the cafe, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. I had faced my demons, confronted my past, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Giselle's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it had also been a catalyst for growth. I had learned to love myself, to value my own worth, and to appreciate the importance of trust and honesty in relationships. I returned to Seattle, ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold. I am Finn, and this is how I survived betrayal and found my way back to myself.